Awesome. Am I on? I need to hold this too.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah. Do you all hear me? All right, good morning. Thank you for that intro. I'm so excited to be at Creative Mornings. Thank you, Creative Mornings team, for having me. For lots of reasons. The biggest reason is, man, this theme of compassion is something that, I say passion a lot. It's something that really resonates with me and my team at Rule 29. I run a firm in the western suburbs of Chicago. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to do work that what we call makes creative matter. And what we mean by that is not only work that we're proud of, that we think is excellent, and you guys look at it and hopefully be like, oh, that's nice. But also work whenever possible can impact the world. And so one of the things that we do at Rule 29 is we kind of use our job as a little bit of a laboratory. And we do different activities, events, and we try things all the time to see what kind of impact that we can make as a group. And so I'm going to share with you a story of something we've been doing for the last 4 years. I'm going to share with you some steps that if you want to do a project like this, I'd recommend taking. I'm going to share with you some definite failures and some challenges and some success and all that sort of thing. So I hope you're fully caffeinated, because I am. In fact, I feel like I'm going to peel my skin off. I had 3 espressos this morning, so I'm ready. So when I talk about branding passion, this is really what I'm talking about. In my opinion, there's no better time to be a creative than right now. Because you guys all in this room have the ability to tell a story that does something magical, and that is to change someone's perspective, to give them more insight, to maybe have empathy in an area they didn't have before. So when I talk about branding passion, I'm talking about using that superpower we have as creatives. That may sound cheesy, that may sound overstated, but it's true. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've discovered, and hopefully if you're a doubter, I'll change your mind. So one of the things that when I give talks of this nature, people say, well, you know what, my work is really just kind of useless. And I think that's not true. I'll say, what kind of work do you do? And they're like, oh, I do PowerPoint. And I'm like, ugh. Or brand guidelines, whatever else. And those things are great. Because I really think every rep you take, every at-bat you have as a designer makes you better. And if you don't have an opportunity to do a job, either a side project or a job at your agency, that you're aligned with something you're passionate about, then do that. Because I can tell you without question, there's no better time, there's no better feeling than when you do something that can make the world a better place as a creative. And I hope most of you believe that. But there's other reasons too. I'll have business owners that ask me, but really, why do you do this kind of work? And I'll just be really transparent with you. This is kind of how I look at it from a business standpoint. I look at these 3 key areas: passion, culture, and marketing. Passion, we're all passionate about something, right? So if you can do work within that passion that explores that gets you closer to that, that's awesome. From a cultural standpoint, I talk a lot about culture. I think your culture of where you work is almost more important than the design you put out. Because if you're not in the right culture, you're never going to be able to explore the unique elements that you can bring to that job, right? So for me, if this kind of job really increases your culture, brings the team together, and let's just be honest, marketing. I have not met a client yet that doesn't like working with a company that's trying to make the world a better place. That's awesome, right? So if you have an opportunity to do that, talk about it. It's not bad, it's not dirty. I don't know why I said dirty, but we'll just go with it. So anyways, let me kind of reveal some of the steps to you really quick. And I need to apologize. I have posters in the back for you guys to take. I was supposed to bring one from each ride, and I failed you because I left at 5 in the morning. But if you want posters, like posters, and you want the whole collection, if you email me, I'll send it to you on my dime, okay? All right. So let's start with step one. And really, I'm a list maker, okay? So anytime some challenge in life happens, I have to make a list. And so in this context, I'm going to talk about taking a leap. So if you're not sure what kind of passion project you want to do, just make a list. And that list can be a variety of different things, right? So for me, I made a corporate list, things that I wanted to really explore at Rule 29 and encourage my team. And then I made a personal list. And right around this time, we were rebranding several nonprofits. One of them was an organization called Life Water. And they're one of the oldest water organizations in the country. And they work in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. And I started reading about the world water crisis. And I don't know about you, this isn't planned, by the way. This is perfect timing to drink a sip out of my bottled water that I can easily get right here. But I couldn't understand how you could travel the world and large parts of the developing world couldn't get safe water. Boggled my mind. So I'm like, maybe I could do something when it comes to water. I also am a fairly young man, but I have a knee replacement, and I needed to do something to keep me active, and so I really got into cycling. So I love cycling. And then in 2007, I took my first trip to Africa. That continent has mesmerized me, and I'll probably be doing work in that area the rest of my life. And so these are kind of three things that kind of came together for me that I really want to explore more. How can I do something that combines these things and also gets my team excited about doing that work? So I simply started with that list. And the reason this list is important is because it gives you a lens, right? It gives you a lens to start working and looking for ways to kind of bring that all together. The next part, and I'm going to be honest with you, this is, I think, the most important part, is to see with your heart. Infographics, we probably have all done them. We probably all have to do some today. Our clients love infographics, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's facts on a piece of paper, right? And we, as designers, will look at that. We'll do something crazy, awesome. We'll, create it in a way that's more readable, and that's great. But it's all up here, right? And so if you want to do something that you're passionate about and you want to make an impact, it needs to go from here to here. And so the only way to do that, in my opinion, is to put your pencil, mouse, whatever you do, paintbrush, down, and go experience it for yourself. Witness it. So I'm going to share with you what I did. So in 2013, I went to Uganda. These are some young ladies that came upon one of my first days, and they're collecting water that they're going to use to cook with and drink with. Off camera, which you can't see, their little brother is getting a bath by their mom in the same water. And then further up is some livestock, some steer from the local area where the farmer, and they're in there drinking water and doing their business, right? Doesn't seem healthy to me. Next spot I went to, I'm here with our interpreter, and she's showing me a watering hole that had recently been used by this village that now, because of the work that Life Water was doing, had now turned into this, which is a safe water well. And so all this information was freaking me out, right? I was trying to process the reality that this exists. And so here I was sitting under a shade tree, and I saw these girls walking by. They should be in school, by the way, right now. And the older sister in front had a bike and had a bunch of jerry cans on it. So jerry cans, those yellow cans you probably have all seen, they weigh about 40 pounds a piece when they're full with clean water, about 50 pounds with dirty water, okay? So she, on her bike right now, has 160 pounds of water, okay, that she's taking back to her home. And she'll probably have to do that a couple times, which will mean she will not be able to go to school that day. And something struck me, right? Water, bikes, things started to come together. But I never would have had that lens, right, if I hadn't made my list. It sounds really simple, but I'm telling you, it's kind of magical, right? And then the next thing, I put this in here because when does Americans freak out? Hey, put your toddler in the back of the bike and hold on, good luck. I was terrified. I wanted to go and duct tape this little toddler to the bike. But I show you that images because I started seeing the bike in this part of the world being an incredible asset. So I'm sure most of you do this. I use my iPhone all the time to take visual journal of things that I'll look at later, typography, packaging, something cool, I think. And so I started taking these little shots of all the ways bikes were used in this region of Uganda to get by in daily life. Hauling wood, plowing equipment, people. The guy on the far right, yes, you're right. He has a repair shop. He goes around the village, a different village every day, and repairs bikes. This guy here, I only get the back of him. Outside my hotel, this is a cab. I'm a little bigger than the average Ugandan, and he would just cruise by me. He's like, no, too big. So it's funny, I finally talked the guy into do it, and of course I sit on his bike, and what happens? I pop his tire. Yeah, fat American, right here. I did replace it, but I wanted to actually ride their bike to feel what kind of bike it was. I wanted to try to experience as much as I could. I didn't want to look at a picture of it. I wanted it to go from here to here, right? And then that girl you had seen earlier, I finally caught up with her and I talked to her and interviewed her, and she was beautiful and amazing. And so I kind of finally knew what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, because I had experienced it, okay? So for me now, it's like, define the what. What is it that I wanted to do, right? How could Rule 29, a Chicago suburban creative firm, right? How could we make any difference? Like, what did we want to accomplish was really the question I kept asking. And so I went back to my handy list again, right? And so I started where probably most of us would start. I thought about the fact, like, well, let me look at the strategy behind this. I know I could write a strategy for it. What other assets could we bring to the table, right? Print, digital, promotional partners. And then I just started, kind of putting all the things out there that I knew we were good at, that we could do. I started coloring them in of like, yes, this seems like it would make sense. This is something we could do. And I'm doing this all while I'm in country and trying to visualize what kind of story, what could we accomplish if we used our abilities, right? And so I was in Klero, Uganda. This is roughly where it's at. And I sort of developed what I called the what criteria. And that was started with this. I wanted to use my team's ability for some goodness. I wanted to do something that got outside of our normal. It wasn't just a branding project. I wanted to do something that would really change our perspective. The next thing is that I knew I had to make a sacrifice. So I was going to pay for it. And I was going to invest the time into it, the responsibility for it, and the pain. I'll tell you about that in a second. But when I talk about money, the reason I bring up money is we decided that we were going to be the client too. I told LifeWater that we would raise the $40,000. I don't have $40,000 laying around, so if we didn't raise it, Justin was on the hook for it. I'm talking third person. Justin was scared about that. But I felt if there's any way for us to change, that's what we needed to do, right? And so I discovered when I was there that for $40, LifeWater can bring a Ugandan safe water, sanitation, hygiene education for like $40. If I would have paid for my 3 espressos this morning, it would have been, not $40, but halfway there, right? That's mind-boggling to me. So I had the what. I was ready. Then I got in the plane and realized, man, I can't do this by myself. And so even though we all want to own our passion projects, I really believe you can make more impact as a team. And so I wanted to get some people together and see what we could do collectively to really, really blow this thing out. Plus, $40,000 was hanging over my head. I was a little nervous about it. So, here was the core team. It was Rule 29, LifeWater, we're going to work with. My good friends at Wonderkind Studios, they do video production and photography. And then printing, they were a printer. I didn't quite know what we were going to do yet because we hadn't written a strategy, but I assumed we were going to need some materials. And to fast forward a little bit, by the time we got done in the story, we had a ton of people come alongside of us, which was awesome. And each one of these people were there strategically. We asked them to do something very unique to them that they could own and they could be passionate about, but then it would help us go forward. So next thing was to build the story, right? This is what we do every day, ideally, right? We're telling our client story. So I said, here's the basic story. It was much more eloquent, but I made it easy for us since it's early. We decided that we were going to ride our bikes from Boston to Chicago, and it's about 1,000 miles, and we're going to filter our water along the way, which is a very stupid idea, by the way. So that means that when we landed in Boston, any drop of water that me or any of the other riders drank, we filtered from an open water source. Horrible idea, but it was awesome because we had so many incredible conversations, and I'm joking around. It wasn't really a horrible idea. When I was climbing mountains and stuff on our ride, and I was like, this is crazy, I thought about the fact that how easy this was compared to getting water every day. The goal was this. If we can get every mile we ride sponsored for $40, we'd raise the $40,000. Sounds easy, right? So we called this event Wheels for Water. We wanted to brand it. We kind of wanted to make it our own thing. We wanted to bring people together because not everyone was really into the whole LifeWater program. So we created our own story, said here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's the impact you can make. And then we started creating assets, right? And so we did a sponsor deck, right, talking about why we needed you, what impact you could make. We created banners and handouts. But the key thing is my team and I, we went around the country sharing people the facts of the world water crisis. We wanted to shift people's perspective about how hard it was to get water in other areas and how easy we have it. Because we felt if I could turn someone's heart, they would support it. Whether they supported it financially, if they told their friends about it, that was the key, right? At least that's what we thought was a strategy. And so we did other things that you would assume. We created a website. We had different personas. So, my job was to attract the creative and cycling community, and then we had some other communities kind of aligned up with different partners. So we created a bunch of merch for people to get, like posters and that sort of thing. We did a poster for every state we rode through. We worked with the Art Crank community. If you don't know them, look them up. It's pretty great, cycling design and posters. We created branded jerseys to have the sponsors feel excited about being a part of it. So we wore these every day during the ride and kind of told why they were a part of it. Social media memes, blah, blah, blah. I'm not skimming over the design because I don't think it's important. It is, but that's a different talk. And so we had done our thing. Like we created the materials that we thought would work with our strategy, and it's what we do every day. But I want to throw out one really quick step here that I think is often overlooked. I'm the kind of guy that once I write my list and I see the goal, I kind of bury my head and I get there. I'm going to, no matter what, come hell or high water, I'm going to make sure we accomplish our task. The problem with that is you often miss what's going on around you, right? I mean, Ferris Bueller is brilliant, right? If you don't take a step back and check things out, life's going to cruise right on by. And so we were doing this big event, right? I had these partners with me, and there are so many things that I had missed along the way. And that's a bummer. So that's just a sort of a public service announcement. If you're going to do something like this, make sure you take a step back, look at the work, thank the collaborators you're working with, and take the time to enjoy it. Really the good and the bad. Because really, that's where you learn, that's where you evolve, and that's where you keep evolving. And I told you I'm a list guy, and this is really true. I planned everything to the T. And wouldn't you know it, things didn't work out the way we wanted to. For example, this is a failure. This is Brian and I in this little reservoir in Boston, filtering our water. We had a two-step process. You do a carbon filter, and then you put it into an Nalgene bottle. Then you take this SteriPen, which is a light that gets all the other grossness out of there, and it's good to go. We practiced it in the bathroom. It worked like a charm. Not out of the toilet. Someone asked me that the other day. I'm like, no, I'm not that brave. But when you go into a pond with scum, your filter gets clogged. So it took us 10 times the amount of time we had tested at home to do that. So maybe you want to test it in a real life situation. When you know it, the next night, we're sitting there in this freezing cold campground. It's kind of spooky, like the It clown lives there, I'm sure. And we're sitting there, and I'm using the SteriPen, and Brian bumps my arm, and the SteriPen goes in the air in slow motion and slowly falls into this gross, nasty lake that Brian took off his clothes and jumped in, and I was kind enough to hold the light for him. He did not find it, and we did have to pull him out because he was going hypothermic. It's way funnier now because he was fine, but at the time it was a little crazy. But it was cool because of the sponsorship that we had and the stories that we're telling. We actually had a sponsor drive 300 miles and give us a new SteriPen the next day. And I cried for many reasons. First, I knew I was going to get diarrhea, which was great. Not that you want to hear that this morning. You're welcome. But I didn't want to get sick, so that was great. So we did it. We rode from Boston to Chicago. And we had a bunch of people join us, and that was great. And I want to share with you kind of what we learned and kind of share with you what were the next steps. First of all, 1,000 miles, might not seem like it, is a long-ass way. In fact, we rode 1,207 miles, not that I was counting, so that was crazy. Seriously, though, it truly takes a village to do something like this. Great things are completely not easy. You can design way too much stuff. Trust me, we had like 52 videos, like 12 posters, way too many t-shirts. I'm like washing cars with t-shirts now. But the most important thing is you can make a difference. Sounds cheesy, right? It's not. We did not raise $40,000. We didn't do it. We raised $102,000. That was incredible. So we did the village that we're looking at, another village, and started a third village. That was insane. And I was pumped, and I'm like, yes, that was awesome. There's a whole list of things that kind of happened to our team internally about how we went and shifted everything. I kind of skipped over a really important point. That is, when we became on the hook, like when we became the client, it's really funny how your design decisions change when you're responsible for the money. So that's another thing. Think about that. We say we try to think about it from our client's perspective, but until you're the client and you have to write that check, I challenge you to say that your design decisions are a little different. So if you do it again, my suggestion is to be a part of sort of the design thinking process and make it smarter. Sounds easy, right? But we had, LifeWater came to us and said, hey, that was incredible. Would you do it again? And I'm like, no way. I can't be gone for 2 weeks. By the way, I own Rule 29. I have a family of 4, and I ended up gone for like 3 weeks, and that was tough on my family. But I said, oh, if we do it, we want to tell the story better and simpler. We want to be more strategic, not make as much stuff, right? We wanted to bring the sponsors in earlier so they can be a part of the formation, be a part of the story, and own it more. We wanted to make it the entire year. And really, if we're really about changing the world from the design world water crisis standpoint, that needed to be longer. And then finally, we wanted to share the load more. So what we did, I'm going to just kind of quickly go through kind of what happened after that first year. So what we did is we decided to keep the general brand of Wheels for Water, but tweak it every time we did something different, was the idea. So this year we decided that we were going to ride to the coast of California. We were going to do a school in the Congo. It's 450 kids, so we're going to ride 450 miles for 450 kids, try to get each mile sponsored. We did way more strategic, way more focused materials, like from handouts, one poster, of course, I don't know what it is about designers, they have to make posters, right? Banners, we updated the website really simply. We brought in 5 key sponsors for them to be a part of it. And then we started telling people about what we were doing and how it was changing our internal culture and how exciting it was to do this kind of thing that really was making impact. And in that, How Conference came to Chicago a couple years ago, and so they had us be a part of their event, which was awesome. What's not awesome is creating a booth in a week, but we figured it out. And then we were able to activate that community, and we raised like $10,000, which is incredible. And then we did our ride. We rode from Northern California down the coast, and it was beautiful. It was very mountainous. Again, not good for me. All of my partner riders are like 100 pounds lighter than me, so they would like go up and have lunch and wait for me to climb the hill. And so we did it again. And one of the things that we told our people who support us is like, we want to show you the results. So oftentimes we donate, right? We never see something physically of where our money goes. And so what we did is we did this little video just showing, this is a, this is a condensed clip, but these are all the different wells and scenes and people that we were able to help impact in the first 2 years, which was super exciting and emotional. I cried a lot. And then in the first 2 years, this is what we were able to do together, which was pretty exciting. So we were done, right? No. We had a ton of people write us after we're done and said, hey, can we ride with you? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, let's figure that out. We didn't really want to support a bunch of people riding with us because it was dangerous, a lot of the stuff that we did. And so we decided we were going to do one-day events. So we did an event in Illinois, Arizona, were our 2 bases of support. And then we used technology to say, hey, if you want to host a ride somewhere in the country, if you raise a certain amount of money, we'll come out and ride with you, we'll help promote it and all that sort of thing. And that was awesome. And I think what happened is because we wrote a really sound strategy in the beginning and said, hey, here's what we'd love to do, this was really easy and able to adapt and evolve, right? And so again, you kind of know the formula, right? We just kind of kept tweaking it. So we created simpler materials. Of course, had to show you the poster. And then we rode in Arizona, and our goal was hoping to raise $40,000, and we raised 60. which is amazing. So for the first part of this talk, I just wanted to go over these steps really quick. And if you want to do something like this, then you absolutely have to take a leap, right? You have to figure out what those things that you're really interested in and write them down. Then you need to go out into the community and see it, like physically see it, touch it, smell it, whatever it is, like experience it. And then really define the what. What is it that you want to do? Does it need to be done? It's another big question. Maybe you'd be screwing stuff up if you do something. Also, don't start your own 501c3. There's enough nonprofits out there. Go find a nonprofit you love and support them, right? Make a team. You can't do it alone. And I promise you, the results and the experience will be so much more rewarding. Build the story. This is kind of really our ballywick, right? Like, we know how to do this. And it's so excited to do it for something that you're passionate about. Definitely be present, experience the work. And if you do repeat it, make it smarter. So before I close, I just want to kind of show you really what was next after that. We had the opportunity to share at a university all of the impact that we were able to be a part of in the first 3 years. This is kind of a little movie of the gallery space that we did. So we had ended up creating a ton of assets, had brought a bunch of people together, and it was really exciting to do this work. And we were talking about how we in the suburbs of Chicago made an impact both like locally, nationally, and globally. And it was super exciting. So this was just some of it. And while we're there, I realized, I'm going to do this one more time and I'm done. I needed to take a break, but we wanted to do something huge. So we decided that we had been able to raise enough funds to support about 5,000 people in the first 3 years. So we decided that we wanted to raise enough to support 10,000. And so we decided that we were going to ride our bikes across country in 10 days to reach 10,000 people. So we were going to ride from San Diego to Jacksonville. Sadly, because of the hurricanes, we had to reroute the week before. Again, that punch in the face comment comes out because we couldn't ride through Houston and we couldn't get into Jacksonville, so we went up north and rode to Charleston. And I literally got back from this ride, I don't even know what day it is today, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And so just to kind of share with you, because you've seen the formula so far, here are some of the materials we created, really simplified it. We actually got to go back to the Howell Conference in Chicago. That's what happens when you have a little more than a week. The experience a little more interesting. So one of the things we did here is we had people pick up jerry cans. I was going to bring some today, and I really let you down today, so I owe you big. And then here are just some images of that ride. So it was hot. Luckily for us, we rode during a week that it was the record temperature heat in Tucson and Dallas. I literally felt like I was going to melt. Our whole goal here is we brought more people along and invited more people to hear about the water crisis. We stopped along the route and told the story. We shared what we're doing, why we're doing it, and it was really, really amazing. And so if I could leave you with one thing that I think about all the time, and it's this quote. And if you are struggling with your job or why you're a designer or whatever else, and you want to find a piece of you that maybe you haven't ever seen or missed, do work for others. Do work that's going to make the world a better place. Experience it. Feel it, because I'm telling you, it is intoxicating in a good way. Because I like scotch, and that could be bad too. So my question to you is, how will you serve others? How can you go out and make impact? I got to update the slide last night before I sent it in, and here's what's amazing. In the 4 years collectively, we've raised over $430,000, and we're going to end up reaching almost 12,000 Africans with safe water, sanitation, hygiene, education for life. A small design firm in suburban Chicago with a bunch of their knucklehead friends had this idea and said, hey, how can we tell a story that can maybe impact the world and put ourselves out there to experience it? Thank you.